One of Hollywood's most renowned dads and his only daughter have been estranged for over a decade, and the world has stood by and done nothing. At last, the quiet has been disturbed. The reality is even more tragic than anybody had anticipated. Previously known as Suri Noel, now as Suri Cruz, was thrust into the limelight at a young age. Despite being born into renown, she was brought up in secrecy and was separated from her father by forces that a kid couldn't comprehend. However, at the age of 19, she is more expressive by her actions than her words. Plus, the message has taken reminding everyone of the beautiful family who used to be red carpet happy. This is the true tale of a daughter who observed her father distantly as she grew older, and the man who felt her vanishing from his life. An aspiration that started off like a film. The 2005 meeting of Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes was the stuff of fairy tales, so famously publicized before to its commencement. A young actress with the allure of a small-town dreamer. Katie was 26 years old and radiating with fame after Dawson's Creek. Already a legend. Tom was 43 years old. Just hearing the name of this man brought in crowds at the movies. Top Gun, Jerry Maguire. Mission Impossible. Having admiration wasn't enough for Katie. She had been very forthright with 17 magazine about her desire to marry Tom Cruise many years ago. Then it sounded so sweet, almost like a girly song. Nobody thought it would really happen. As soon as Tom allegedly announced to his friends and acquaintances, "I'm going to marry her," upon first seeing her. Weeks later, the unthinkable became a reality. There was no denying the chemistry. The passion was intense. They were seen in Rome, Italy, photographed holding hands, making out like a couple of carefree teens, their love evident. Everyone witnessed Tom's dramatic change from a reserved and level-headed man to a man engulfed in love. After that, the turning point arrived, famously jumping on the sofa and yelling, "I'm in love," during his visit on Oprah Winfrey's show. The whole thing was very unusual, very memorable, and very Tom Cruise. A few people found it romantic. Some found it disturbing, yet nobody could turn away. Their daughter Suri was born by April 18, 2006, the infant who personified their flurry of romance. To this day, Tom says, "The happiest day of my life when she was born. She was a miracle to him, and he couldn't stop gushing about her." Still, the principles that guided his life, Scientology, impacted even that miraculous event. Katie, who had been a Catholic schoolgirl from Toledo, now had to figure out a whole new set of rules. During her pregnancy and the birth of Suri, she adhered to Scientology practices, such as the practice of silent birth, in which no one present during the delivery was permitted to talk. To monitor the pregnancy independently, Tom went so far as to purchase a sonogram machine. It was dedication to them, even though it appeared weird and dominating to outsiders. Held in Bresciano, Italy's 15th century Odiscalchi castle. Their November wedding was the stuff of tabloids and fairy tales. About $3 million went into it. Giorgio Armani was Katie's choice. Tom seemed to radiate with a sense of accomplishment. The Beckhams, Jennifer Lopez, and Will Smith were among the guests. Even though Katie put up a brave front, her parents were apprehensive. They were uncomfortable with the church's influence on their daughter's life, because they had been devout Catholics all their lives. Moreover, while to their dread, the fairy tale quickly took on a new form. A life controlled by authority, secrecy, and belief. Love was what it was for Tom. It was the first step towards Katie's seclusion. It also marked the beginning of Suri's formative years, which stay out of the usual. The flawless family breaks down. Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes appeared unstoppable by 2007. They represented the ideals of a Hollywood fantasy: magazine covers, private planes, and red carpets. They seemed like the model family to everyone else. The most famous actor in the world, along with his stunning wife and lovely daughter. Something, though, was starting to crack beneath that flawless exterior. Katie was never seen alone, according to her friends, members of Tom's inner circle, who frequently became involved with her whenever she went out. Scientology followed closely behind. Someone was always following her, even on her most casual outings, as if they were trying to keep track of her every move. Journalist Maureen Orth noticed a faint tension between them after dinner one night. Katie greeted the fans who came to their table with a courteous grin and remarked something. That caught Orth off guard. "Oh, we're very cooped up indoors." Two outsiders unaware of Scientology's rigid hierarchy, it was illuminating, despite its seemingly harmless sound. Unchanged from before, Tom was an infectious energy ball, exuding confidence and charm while being utterly devoted to his faith. Already, he had established himself as one of Scientology's most influential representatives, accidentally promoting and protecting its star center from detractors. He did not consider Christianity to be a religion. Truth, discipline, and redemption were its components. For Katie, it became an impenetrable barrier. From the outside, Martin and Kathleen Holmes, her parents, were more and more worried. They were deeply suspicious of Scientology's top secret structure, since they were practicing Catholics. As they became more confused about how Tom met up with their daughter, friends of Katie's say she was emotionally distant and robotic after she started constantly gushing over Tom. His incredible "I love him." Her illumination waned as if in rehearsal. At the same time, Bella and Connor, who are adopted children of Tom and Nicole Kidman, already had a strong presence among the Church of Devout Scientologists. It seemed to Tom that Suri would take the same course of action. However, Katie was not yet prepared to give her kid over to a system that she was unfamiliar with. She started to back away slowly and softly. By 2010, rumors began circulating that Katie felt confined. She began spending more time in New York without Tom, stopped going to some church functions, and started getting back in touch with former co-workers. She was secretly collecting data and plotting something huge. The fissures were no longer concealed by 2011. In public, Katie's grins became more tense, and she became more careful with her movements. Fear replaced the once beautiful fairy tale for many, even as she clenched her grip on her daughter's hand even more firmly. She was already plotting her escape. This was the beginning of their break from the Hollywood ideal family, which would soon stun the globe. The Hollywood escape that shocked the world. The 29th of June 2012. An unexpected jolt roused the entire globe. Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes' divorce petition has been filed. The was astute and strategic, only a few days before becoming 50 years old. Breakup wasn't the only word for it. A rescue operation was underway. Tom said in subsequent interviews that he hadn't anticipated it. Saying, "It hit me hard," he continued without making a sound. "Life can do that to you." As if she were aware that someone was keeping tabs on her every move. Katie had been quietly planning for months. She replaced employees she thought were reporting to her, changed mobile phone providers, and recruited new security guards, Scientology handlers. Nothing was impromptu. Every step was prearranged. Her unspoken tactician was her famously brilliant father, Martin Holmes, a lawyer. He made use of a prenuptial agreement he had helped create many years before to secure her independence. New York was Katie's top pick for battlefield rather than California, where the laws were more favorable to the parent requesting exclusive custody. In secret, she filed the paperwork when Tom was in Iceland filming Oblivion. The news headlines were how he first heard of the divorce, just like everyone else. As a guy, it was the pinnacle of controlessness for someone who had previously oversaw every aspect of his life. Subsequent court filings exposed Katie's motivation concealment. In addition to wanting sole control over Suri's religious, medical, and educational matters, she also demanded full custody of the 6-year-old girl. It wasn't Tom that she was afraid of. It belonged to the church that had encircled them. After the fact, ex-Scientologists asserted that Katie had harbored the unsettling belief that Suri might be selected for the CEO program as an adult, a prospect that Katie was unable to embrace. Just as abruptly as it started, the legal battle came to a close. The dissolution of the marriage took place in 11 days. Tom committed to paying $400,000 per annum in child support, which would cover all of Suri's expenditures up until the age of 18, plus more for things like health care, insurance, and schooling. Money wasn't Katie's desire, though. What Vasi desired: physical, spiritual, legal, and geographical separation. She and Suri disappeared from Los Angeles the day following the settlement. In New York City, they reappeared, and the paparazzi caught sight of them strolling hand in hand through Chelsea. The handlers, guards, and orchestrated groups had vanished. Outward looks. Katie appeared exhausted, yet liberated. For the first time in years, she grinned a genuine smile. Suri found her freedom in the stillness. Her once miraculous father, who would formerly carry her on red carpets, had disappeared. Without resentment or contention, just disappeared. And in that stillness, existence started anew. Unlike anything Scientology or Hollywood could ever dream of writing. Forgotten years. Tom and Suri's worlds became totally divided after their divorce. When he was deposed in a lawsuit in 2013, he was asked if Katie had left him to shield Suri from Scientology. This was an unusual occurrence. Tom took offense to the question and said it was offensive, but he later conceded that it was true. He had never before acknowledged the gulf as much as he did at that moment. Rumors surfaced the same year suggesting Tom's sole interaction with Suri after the divorce had been a short private meeting. Nothing further. There are no known sightings, photographs, or visits. Over the subsequent years, Tom immersed himself in his profession. The sequels to Mission, Impossible World Tours, Top Gun, Maverick, and gravity-defying stunts. His legion of devoted followers never stopped applauding whenever he darted from a height. However, his younger daughter was growing up apart from him at some unspecified place. At the same time, Katie was intent on getting Suri's life back to normal. She enrolled her in a Manhattan private school, started her in dancing classes, and took her to parks and cafes. Friends noted that Suri, although being born into stardom, was remarkably humble, gentle, and intelligent. Katie stepped in front of the camera to protect her. There will be no interviews, red carpets, or other Hollywood mayhem. Suri resembled her mother to a T by the time she was a teenager, remaining independent with identical eyes and a timid grin. However, she would subtly change the topic anytime her father's name was mentioned. No one ever heard Tom mention her again in public. Rumor has it that he still foots the bill for her medical care and education. Even so, they remained unphotographed together for more than 10 years. A father who could hold the spotlight for all to see was unable to re-establish contact with his daughter. Imagined in two spacecraft had swum to opposing galactic planes. reborn with a fresh identity. By the year 2021, Suri had fully established herself. She was a student at the famed LaGuardia High School for the Performing and Visual Arts in New York City, the very institution that served as the basis for the film Fame, along with her classmates. She performed in and made short films. But a single choice hinted at something more fundamental. Suri Noel, her mother's middle name, was listed on the program for her senior year musical, The Addams Family instead of Suri Cruz. That wasn't only a decision-making process. It has to do with who. Suri Noel was the name that showed up on the official list when she graduated in June 2024. Tom was absent. He was seen at a Taylor Swift event in London, thousands of miles away. The difference was fans who recalled the proud dad from 2006 felt their pain, while the other parents applauded and sobbed silently. Katie remained in New York, without the support of Hollywood or her father's presence. Her daughter had grown into a young woman. Suri decided to study fashion at Pittsburgh's Carnegie Mellon University later that summer. Carrying boxes herself, Katie assisted her with moving into her dorm. Just a mother and daughter engaging in typical family activities, no entourage, no cameras. Katie reunited with her former Dawson's Creek co-star Joshua Jackson in the autumn for their new film Happy Hours, which Katie directed. Suri made a triumphant return to the set in 2025 at the age of 19, exuding confidence and composure. Wearing khakis, a white tank top, and red trainers, she exuded an air of composed self-assurance that had been molded by years of remaining silent. Her fame was almost non-existent, but her sign-off was obvious. Tom Cruise could no longer claim her as his daughter. Now that she was Suri Noel, she was at last at liberty. Hidden beneath the headlines is the anguish. There was a sighting of Suri, head lowered in her hands, on a New York doorstep in October 2025. She appeared weary and confused, deep in contemplation. Katie pulled up in an Uber a little while later, took a seat next to her, and reassured her in a kind way. They had a brief conversation before heading out for pastries. From the outside, it appeared to be just another typical mother-daughter encounter. However, people witnessed their narrative, which seemed to represent the extent to which they have depended on one another ever since the day change occurred. As a 19-year-old college sophomore, Suri is discovering herself while majoring in fashion design, composing music, and writing. Nothing has changed in her connection with her dad. Her education is still being paid for by him, and they haven't been publicly seen or spoken to in 12 years, yet they have health expenses. As for Tom, his career is taking off. He's getting ready to work with NASA and SpaceX to film scenes in space. He once ruled Hollywood, and now he wants to rule the world. Planet Earth. However, he may never be able to close the gap with his younger daughter, according to those in the know. Katie has made an effort to distance herself from resentment by centering her thoughts on appreciation and personal development. Suri, she says, is a fantastic human being, and her witnessing her daughter's resilience and autonomy fills her with immense joy. Even with her new identity, Suri still bears the burden of someone else's story. Love, power, and the hidden price of stardom are the themes of this narrative. Everyone has been glued to this family's story for the past 19 years. Concluding nowhere. One parent who left an indelible mark on the world through his performances, and another whose daughter subtly decided to leave his shadow. Will Suri Noel ever re-establish contact with her father? Or is the gulf between them here to stay as she forges her own path in life? Do you have any opinions? Is there a way for silence to mend? Alternately, are some gaps just too wide to bridge? Leave a comment with your ideas. To see more stories that show the dark side of fame and celebrity, like, subscribe, and enable notifications. Loved ones.